There we go. Welcome everyone to Satsang with Cate. Just to start off, let me just say a big welcome, a big virtual hug, blessings, and let's join in God's love. Let's just join there and stay there and never move away from it. So let's just get quiet for a few minutes to begin with, because you may have been busy and you've just got yourself sorted in front of the screen. Let's just have a few moments of quietness and join our minds. Join into the mind that is joined. Okay, you might feel a reluctance to come out of that. So what I find when I got silence, because God has no words, right? There's no words in God. It's really just silence and peace and love experience. So anytime we really drop deeply into that beautiful quietness, we can, he even says in the Course, you sort of reluctantly come back to the world. But he's not asking us to stay there. He needs our voice, our hands. He needs what the ego made for a new purpose. So, even in the world, there's all this repurposing, recycling, repurposing, reimagining. And so we're just going to repurpose the body and give it another use. And so we take our part in God's plan for salvation. We take our part. We all have a part, and we don't have to figure it out. It will be given to us step by step. It's given to us in every moment. So I'm playing my part. And my part is to just follow my guidance. I think it was last November, December, when I took some time off, that I got, was it then? Anyway, one of the times I took a few weeks off, I got the guidance about doing this group. And then a few months ago, I got some guidance to do these small groups, which I haven't really publicised because they're only for 8 people, but I will be sharing about that probably later this year. So they're quite specific little groups, and they go really deeply with each other in a very intentional way, where we basically join together for 8 weeks every day. So these things come in for us. So any abilities we have, anything that we can do he will use for his purposes. So, you know, I've in this particular lifetime, I've been quite creative. I've made patchwork quilts. I've done lead lighting, mosaicing, knitting, crocheting, drawing, painting. So he is going to now use something that this body can do, which is painting, to paint some paintings with some coarse quotes on it for, you know, to hang on walls. So as we walk past, we're reminded of the truth. So some people sing, some people are really good at computers and technology, and they set up things. Some people are writing books. Some people want to hold a group every day. There's someone here that I know does that, so that's why I'm laughing. So we all have our own purpose. It's equal purpose. No one is better than anyone else. It may look like one teacher has thousands and reach, you know, millions of views on YouTube or something like that, but they're playing their part just as we are. We're not to make meanings of numbers. It's really important to really know that whatever we are doing, if we are giving ourselves and our lives over to God, to the Holy Spirit, that we are playing our part, and it is equal. It's just, that's our purpose for our life, is to give our life over. So however that be, whatever that be, it could be just going and buying a coffee from your local barista and smiling and chatting with that person and just listening. It doesn't have to be with Course in Miracles people. He's not talking about that. He's telling us wherever you are, you can give the miracle of natural love, the miracle of God's love. God's love doesn't demand anyone change. The miracle just looks on our brother, sees it's holy, see the holiness there, and just blesses. And the person receives this feeling of being completely accepted. And that's our job, to be a miracle worker, to see our brother as guiltless, and we spread that joy and blessing. We don't demand our brother change at all. It's really simply that, and the healing occurs, and we're not to concern ourselves with the evidence of the healing. All we are required to do is extend miracles. So to teach peace, I must demonstrate it. I have to demonstrate peace. So I am the demonstration of it. To teach it means to demonstrate it. So whenever I'm with my brother, it's an opportunity to demonstrate my peaceful mind, show him that it's possible to, no matter what he says or does, he will not disturb my peace. To show him that there is a peace that is possible in a mind that cannot be disturbed. I'm here to demonstrate that. And so are we all. And as we teach it, we get it, we receive it, we live in it. So welcome to everyone that's just joined in the last few minutes. If anyone, so I was going to open this to Q&A. I also have a little teaching, but that can wait till a couple of weeks' time. If anyone would like to ask a question, we don't have much Q&A on this, and I thought, well, let's see. I do have a meditation that we can go through towards the end of the group. So if you would like to ask anything, just put your hand, your hand or your virtual hand on your computer, on your screen, on your little Zoom thing. So I think if you click on the right hand corner, oh no, that's not, I'm not sure where the hand is. Anyway, so, okay, let me just, hang on, I've just got something on my screen. I'm trying to get rid of it. Okay. Something's going. Just give me a few minutes. There's something funny on my screen when I went into something. Okay, I'll just leave it there. Okay, George, you would like to ask a question?
Yes, I would. So when I feel any resentment or anger at someone, my job is to what? It's to ask the Holy Spirit to show me his view of it, because I understand now that we're supposed to overlook what never happened. But sometimes, and I can understand that, but sometimes I think about something that happened and it irritates me or makes me upset still. So I'm looking at it through the ego mind. So my job is to be willing to ask for another way to see it, correct? Or am I missing?
No, that's exactly right. So this is our life. This is the practice of forgiveness. So what you've just described, George, is our egoic life. If we think about our life in the ego mind, it's always disturbed, it's always annoyed, it's irritated, it's never happy. It's not possible to be peaceful while we're in the egoic mind. It doesn't have peace. It sort of brings illusory experiences of happiness here and there just to keep you not looking at it. So forgiveness is a gift to myself. Forgiveness. So one of the things you said is that something about overlooking it and seeing that what I thought happened didn't happen. Now, you in the ego mind can't see that. It's not possible. That will just be words and concepts. It won't mean anything. It will be like, oh, I meant to do that. But when you're in the ego mind, you're like swamped with the thoughts and the feelings that go along with it. You're caught up. You're angry, you're annoyed, you're frustrated. So when you're in the ego, you're completely overwhelmed. You can't break free. It's like a closed thought system. It's like a balloon or a bubble. If you can imagine yourself just caught in a thought system, you can't get out. You can't think your way out of it. So that's why we need help. We need to really surrender. So for me, on my journey, forgiveness was my daily practice. So every moment of every day was dedicated to practicing forgiveness. Forgiveness is my function. So function means my purpose, what I'm here to do. So if you go to work and your function is to make coffees, that's your function. That's what you do all day. You stand behind a machine or you pour coffees. That's your function. That's your job. When we become a course student, our job is to practice forgiveness. It's our job. It's our job to do that. So we can't overlook and see that it hasn't happened. It's not possible because we're in the ego, and the ego doesn't overlook. The ego shrieks this did happen. This is unfair. That's what the ego says. The ego is looking at the image and telling you that there's somebody or something outside you that is causing you to be upset. And at that moment, we are totally in it. We can't deny. We are stuck in it. We're overwhelmed with it. We cannot see that we're asleep in a dream of separation. So the whole course is always turning us back to the Holy Spirit. So what we need to do is, first of all, take responsibility for being upset. So the first thing is to say, look, I've noticed I'm upset. I'm responsible for this upset. I, as in, well, the first thing is, I mean, it's the I that I think I am is not who I am, but to practice forgiveness when we're in the ego, we can't see that thought system, those thoughts and beliefs are what is causing us to be upset. So when we hear that what we thought our brother, so forgiveness shows us what we think our brother didn't happen, we can only see that after we've had our change of perception. So the best way to do forgiveness is to say to the Holy Spirit, I believe my brother is doing this to me. I need you to help me see this differently. I have to admit to the Holy Spirit what I think is going on. I need to bring it to him. He asks us to search the cornerstones of our mind. So in lesson, I think it's 333, forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. Conflict must be resolved. It cannot be evaded, set aside, denied, disguised, seen somewhere else, called by another name, or hidden by deceit of any kind. If it would be escaped, it must be seen exactly as it is, where it is thought to be, in the reality which has been given it, and with the purpose that the mind accorded it. So he wants us to be really, really honest about our hatred, about our annoyance, about our anger. He doesn't want us to deny it or disguise it. Oh, no, I'm not really upset. Oh, no, he doesn't want us to pretend or deny it. He wants us to look at it and say, I'm in an absolute rage about this, or I am so fearful of this, or I am so scared of death. I'm so scared of whatever. I feel so guilty. I believe that person did that to me. He wants us to not call it by another name, not spiritualize it or pretend about it. He wants us to really look at it, and we have to see it exactly as it is, not hide it, not deny it, but call it. Say, Holy Spirit, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing my wife, my husband, my daughter, my child, my parent this way. I need help. So I take responsibility. I don't try to spiritualize it or deny it or say, I shouldn't be feeling like this. I'm a good course student. He says, get very honest, sit quietly, bring all the darkness up, how much you hate that person. Remember, Jesus says, you don't realise how much you hate each other. We can't be scared of the word hate or the feelings of hate. Not to be scared of them. They're not our hate. They're not ours. It's not our hate. It's hatred bought by a thought system. It's not ours. But it feels like ours at the time. So the miracle is when we come to the Holy Spirit and we desire peace above being right. That's the key. There's some key strategies here, key points that, and the reason why I'm going through this slowly is that this is very important, these pieces of the puzzle to get to freedom. The ego is going to shriek that you are right. It's going to overwhelm you and keep you stuck in a story for quite a long time. It could be days, weeks, months, years. But forgiveness is when you decide that you've had enough of that view of that person and you want another way to look at them. You want your mind healed of that perception. It is one perception. It feels right. You'll be certain, the ego is certain that it's right. And there's no denying this feeling of being right is going to come upon us. There's going to be hatred, there's going to be anger, and there's going to be a very strong feeling of being right. So we have to remember all that. And then we're going to come really surrendered. And the reason why we want to surrender is because we want peace. We want the peace of God. And the only way to have peace, perhaps I have been wrong. Perhaps I am wrong. I really desire another way to see this personal situation. Because if I'm not experiencing peace, I really need to ask for a correction. So the correction then brings, the Holy Spirit will bring in something to help you. It's not, you can't figure out what's going to come into your mind. It's going to be probably something quite unusual, something quite different to what you'd ever expect. We have to ask and we have to open our minds up and just stay quiet and say, bring me your view. I don't want this view anymore. How I'm perceiving this person and situation is causing me to be upset, depressed, anxious, sad, lonely, all these feelings, these egoic thoughts. We can't leave the ego without help. So we have guides. For me, I had the Holy Spirit and Jesus. Excuse me. And I seem to use the Holy Spirit probably about 90% of the time. And then I called on Jesus when I really felt that really strong, just this sort of really like terror, like really strong fear. And but you don't have to. You can use whatever guide you like, whatever. So it's a journey inwards. We're going inwards. We're looking at the world as our classroom. We're saying, I want to awaken to the peace of God. I want to have all my fear and beliefs undone. I just made the decision, as you all know, I made the decision just to spend 2 years fully immersed in forgiveness. Every day was dedicated to watching my mind. What belief have I got about this? Where's the triggers? Show me these triggers so I can be free of them. Because I started to notice that as I brought these upsets to the Holy Spirit, they got changed. I got a different perception. When I started off, it took a week for the new perception to come in. Now, that's not saying the answer wasn't there instantly. It just seemed that my mind was so caught up in the ego. It just had a lot of rubbish in it. So it was like the light, the answer just couldn't get through as quickly. But I just devoted myself to saying, look, I can't feel anything, I can't feel any answer, but I just keep asking. You can apply the daily lesson, which he asks us to do. For some reason, I missed that little gem. But I was doing the daily lesson. I was doing it how he asks us to do it. But he does ask us to apply it to any situation. So, or anything we're upset about. So, really, it's this, what is really important is this decision that you make deep within yourself. Is, do I want to be right or do I want peace? And when I first read that little line, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? I really felt annoyed and angry when I first read that line. Because I had a past association with that. I had an ex-partner that kept saying to me, just be happy. And I said to him, I just can't be happy. I don't know what you mean by just be happy. And I felt it was very simplistic, this, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy, when I read that line. But I knew that if it was in the Course and it was written by Jesus, that I had to consider it. I had to stop. So treat every line of the Course as a teaching for you. Become a real student. This Course is going to take us to the peace of God. It's going to take us to the lawns of heaven, to an experience of oneness, of knowledge of our oneness. It's got nothing to do with perception. It's got to do with awakening to our true self, who we are and what we are. So that's this giving up. We have to give up. We have to come to this big giving up. Now, you might be at a stage where you're giving up a little bit, but you have to come to that wholehearted forgiveness, the giving up, that surrendering, and because you're going to be asked to let go of all values that you have in the world, even the values of children's lives, which can be, there's no hierarchy of illusion, but that's the big ego. That's what the ego says. One thing is more important than another. So I have to say that my children are not alive. They're not my children. And that's a big thing to have cleared in your mind, that they are on the journey with you, brothers, making the journey with us. We have to take our role as parent in form, but look at them in the content. Look at them as taking the journey with us and letting our guide lead us. So we do have responsibilities as parents for a certain period of time. So, George, that's it. It's really, you can't, if you don't want to practice forgiveness, if you want to be right, it doesn't matter how many times you look at the Course and repeat something. You have to really have that inner conviction. I really want peace. If this peace is available to me, I'm willing to be wrong about everything. And I do have guides, and I have minds that are here that have awakened, that are demonstrating the peace to me. There is no sacrifice to living in God's mind, living in peace. I'm not going to be, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm just going to, the ego is using this body at the moment, and the Holy Spirit will use it. I'll still be able to communicate. I'll still be able to walk and laugh and cook and clean and drive a car and do everything else I've done. But I'm going to be in the world, but not of it. going to have a new purpose now. The Holy Spirit's going to use me to bless and to love. And there is going to be moments. I mean, my life now there's moments of quietness. There's deep quietness. He's not got you active all day, every day. He's not going to, he's not going to demand anything of you. It's going to feel really beautiful. You're going to want to, because your will is joined with his. You can't find anything of yourself that has an individual will, which is what the ego is. So you come to feel that you're lifted up and drawn to something. It's like, rather than the ego pushing you around as the doer and the pusher, you feel this gentle love guiding you. And that love's just going to say, okay, go for a walk now and be quiet. Look at the sky and look at the birds. And it's not the birds and the sky that bring the happiness, or the trees, or the whatever it is. It's the mind. And so we can't, it's not that you make a meaning that something's better than another. It's this, wherever you are, you feel joy, because God is in everything I see. So the one thing about every lesson is talking about vision. And it's got nothing to do with eyes. It's to do with what you might call a spiritual eye, the vision in your mind. He wants us to have another perception of the world. He wants us to let go. So as we let go of our meaning and our values and our beliefs, there's another vision waiting for us, the vision that everything is God. It's not eyes, it's a holy perception. So that perception brings peace. So there's sort of two things, the vision and the peace go together. So I'm now a demonstration for others of a peaceful mind, because I practiced forgiveness. It wasn't easy. I didn't do it perfectly. I had doubt. I was in the ego many, many times, overwhelmed with it. So there's no two ways. A lot of hatred came up. The ego got very vicious. Everything in the course I went through, the turmoil in my mind. The ego brought out the big guns. It just said, if you keep doing this, you don't know where you'll end up. And I just had to, the way I look at this is that this is the ego gets vicious and it raises the bar, and it brings in a higher, this big story about sacrifice and loss, and, you won't have a job, you won't be able to work, you'll have no food, everyone will leave you, you're going to be some crazy Course in Miracles person, you won't be able to operate in the world, you'll start a cult, all the things I heard over the years, right? The ego just raises the bar to here, and your determination and your choice has to come above that. You have to have that dedication. I want the peace of God above all else. And I have to call in Jesus and the Holy Spirit. This is the fear. The ego is just raging with fear and terror. And I have to get quiet and call in my guides and say, help me surmount this. The obstacle to peace is the death. The ego is going to say, you're going to die if you do this. And so Jesus has to come in and help us cross that bridge, gently take a hand and show us that who we are can't die. And in that experience, we awaken to that's who we are, that there is no death. So we're constantly, the journey of forgiveness is constantly surrendering. Every time you say Holy Spirit, you're surrendering, because in that moment you're surrendering from the ego's point of view. You've started to move into, I want another way to look at this. And that's all he asks us to do. He says your part is so small. All you have to do is ask, and it's given to you. So all day long, for 2 years, I just said, okay, I'm upset about this. I used to go into big explanations to the Holy Spirit, but towards the end, the second year, I'd say, okay, it just feels like guilt. Or I just feel like I hate that person. Or my mum's annoying me. I really feel hatred towards her right now. So I never talked about this stuff to anyone else. I didn't use a miracle buddy. I didn't use anyone else. I just knew, I could tell that if I did talk to someone, it didn't heal it. Jesus doesn't say in the Course, go to your brother and talk about the ego, your ego upsets. He says, bring them to me. We have to have this other way come in. Now, it's going to be different for all of us. What he brings in is the answer. So, with Shannon, she went into like this beautiful attic with Jesus and the gaslight, and she's got this is Shannon Williams that is on the group now. She had this beautiful thing come into her, how to be with Jesus and for him to join her on her journey. It's all different. We all will probably be able to write a book. Everyone could write a book about their journey, right? And they can be quite helpful to talk about forgiveness. But really, the only helpfulness of you practicing forgiveness is to demonstrate it to others. So, George, I hope you enjoyed that answer. Now, Tina, what would you like to ask?
Hi, Cate. Thank you so much for doing this group, and all of your YouTube videos, especially the ones on sickness, have really hit home for me and helped me a lot. I have a question, and I don't quite know how to word it, but I really want to let go of some fear associated with what we really are and the one mind. So I wondered, when you're in the one mind, is there any recognition that you are there, that there's nothing individual? So are you just part of a big soup or part of a big ocean? Or it just gets a little confusing because obviously Jesus was resurrected, so he came back as a Holy Spirit, but individual. Or if you read Gary Renard's books, there's Arten and Persa, and they're coming back showing us as individual, but we're not individual. We're part of a oneness. And I just wondered, do you even know what you are when you are part of it? Because you don't even have your own mind. Right now in the ego mind, I think I have this separate mind from everyone else. But when you're joined, I guess it's just one big soup. I don't quite get it. And I just wanted to let go of some fear.
Yeah, so that fear that you are experiencing is what happens towards the end. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to guess what it feels like to be free of the ego. And I did too. We all do it. We read about it. We think, I wonder what that's like. And we sort of think about it. We try to put a meaning on it. What we're doing is we're really like in one room of a house trying to think about what another room would look like that we haven't seen yet. So we're unaware of the other room. And we're in one room and we're thinking about it. And it's very different when you get to this beautiful, clear mind. And what the hardest part of living in a clear space, a happy, peaceful mind, is that there's no words to really explain about it. And so, as you notice, as you get towards the end of the course, he sort of is talking about no words. And he's really wanting us to go into an experience. So when you're in the ego mind, we don't have that experience. Now, where he does say that we do have little glimpses of it, what he calls the holy instant. And most people I know have had these glimpses or awareness. There's been like a few moments, maybe you've had an hour or a day, where your mind's just been completely free. Sometimes you might get it if you do a Byron Cate worksheet, and the question is, who would I be without that thought? And you say, free and happy, you are in that moment experiencing a mind free of thought, and you're experiencing the holy instant. So if you can think about any time that you've had a glimpse or a moment, and that, so if you feel fear about losing yourself, you can rely on me to share that you only lose the fear, the belief in separation, guilt, everything else you can do. You can still do everything else, and you don't lose the ability to know how to make a meal or drive a car. All those things are still, you're still able to do. So the ego will come, and I know the ego did with me. It said that you will end up in the nut house if you keep doing this. You'll let go of everything and you'll be walking around like a bumbling idiot. That's what the ego is, its viciousness. And I had to just look at those thoughts and just trust that, because I don't know, we don't know, Tina. You can't know what it's like, except if you have had any moments of clarity, any sort of revelatory experience, or just a glimpse of peace. If you think about that glimpse of peace, if everyone just wants to think about a time where their mind was free, even just for a moment. So that is what they call the awakened mind or the clear mind. It's just free of fear, free of guilt, free of the belief in separation. It's free of the egoic thoughts. And so it's important to remember that that's the mind in which you're going to live, because we have to remind ourselves, because the ego, sort of like Jesus says, it's going to say, without me, all will be chaos. So, Tina, that's what the ego is saying to you at the moment, that without its thought system, all will be chaos. But the Holy Spirit is saying, without the ego, all will be love. So we have to keep noticing how the ego, we made the ego, we've forgotten we've made it, and it's not even a thing, it is nothing, and it has to be seen as nothing. But the reason why it feels like something is our belief in it. We need to go back home the way we came in, step by step. So we've come down a ladder, we have to go back up the ladder. And we have to be patient with ourselves. And we can't make a demand that I want to awaken today, or I want to be awake by the time I'm 45 or something like that. Don't. In fact, make your goal to undo the ego. Make that your goal rather than to awaken, because like what you've said, Tina, it's not knowable what awakening means. We know what the ego is, and we know that we have to practice forgiveness. We have to take responsibility for everything that happens to me. He's asking us to say, I have given everything all the meaning it has for me. I have. That's why everyone has different meanings. Some are joined meanings, but some are different. Nothing here has any meaning. It is a meaningless world. It has no meaning. Nothing has any meaning. The mind has to accord it a meaning. It has to say, this is what this is. And then someone comes along and says, no, it's not that, it's this. And you get in an argument. So nothing is good or bad. It's not wonderful, it's not awful. It has to be seen as meaningless. And God did not create a meaningless world. If this world has no meaning, I mean, God didn't create it. So we're the one that's putting a meaning. So we're watching a movie, a script, and we're putting a meaning on the images we're seeing. And we can't get out of the meaning without help. That's a really important message. We have to call upon the Holy Spirit and Jesus. We have to develop a relationship with the Holy Spirit. We have to really get quiet and hear and listen. And we can all hear and listen to it. We can. The Holy Spirit can speak through our brother as well. We really have to develop that. We can't say that other mind is special. They can really hear the Holy Spirit and I can't. We all are called, but few listen. It took me at least many, many months to really develop listening to the Holy Spirit. I didn't know what his voice would sound like, and then I remember hearing it sounds like your voice. It's intuitive. It feels like it's something. How do I know what the Holy Spirit is? It's going to bring me. It's going to make me feel good when I listen to it. If I'm listening to something and it doesn't make me feel good, it's not the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit isn't going to judge your brother and say, you're right. The Holy Spirit's not going to say, yeah, you're right. That person really did that. That's terrible. You need to go and give that person a piece of your mind. That's not the Holy Spirit, right? And the Holy Spirit corrects the error. You're not bad for experiencing that. We're in a thought system. We're like we're in quicksand. We need help out. When we flounder around in quicksand, we just keep sinking. We need to put our hands up and say, help me. I need help. I need to be pulled out of this because I'm stuck in this view. I'm stuck. I need help. I'm stuck. I need help all day long. I'm stuck in this. I need help. And that's it. We have to become like, I want the peace of God above all else. I really, really want the peace of God. So I'll just be wrong about everything. Every time I have a belief or an upset, I'll be wrong. I don't know how to get out of it, but I'm willing to be wrong. So that's how I bought everything, the bully at work. I just said to the Holy Spirit, it looks like there's a bully at work. I feel like I want to leave this job. I feel threatened. I feel fearful. I really want to punch her. I just felt so much hatred towards her. And I said, you're going to have to help me get out of this because this is what I'm experiencing. So he wants us to be really honest. He wants us to admit where we are and what we're feeling. and say, I need help. He wants us to ask for help. Really, like, I need help. I need help. And then wait and show me, and then get more. And as we start to see, oh, okay, it's starting to work, and I'm really, some things he gave me to do, and I shared them with others, and they said, oh, I couldn't do that. And I think to myself, I would do anything that the Holy Spirit asked me to do. Everything he asked me to do, I did, because I wanted peace. You have to want peace above what you're experiencing now. The ego is terrible. It really is. It's like living in hell. Why do you want to stay in hell? It really felt like hell to me. And I'm free now. I don't want to go back there. I'm not interested in an egoic thought about anything or anyone. I am not interested. And occasionally the ego offers me another thought. I'm not going back to that. I'm not being tempted by it. No way. This peace is so beautiful and so lovely. It's not worth. I don't want to be right. I just say, I used to walk around saying, I'm wrong about everything. If people ask me something, yeah, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I know nothing. I know nothing. I'm wrong. I know nothing for 2 years, because the ego always wanted to be right and always wants to think it knows something. And I just kept saying, Holy Spirit, I'm wrong. This is what I'm thinking about my dad. This is how I'm seeing my mum, my children. I need another way. So it's really that surrendering, that giving up. So to Tina, just to let you know, you can't really imagine what a clear mind is like, except that when you've had a glimpse or some period of time where you feel you've just moved into this deep peace and nothing has come to disturb it. And so that really is what you'll be living in. So my life now is where, this life of Cate, I feel one with everything. I know everything is God, and I know that everyone here is not an ego, can't be sick. It's an illusion. If you're sick, you're trying to be something you're not. I see when people talk to me about things, I think they think they have a separate self. They think they are a separate self. They think this separate self has autonomy to do this or be this. It's quite unusual to view it from this place of being like, when you move into it, it's a lot different to what I ever thought it was. And God, the idea of God changed completely, because I think I still hung on to these aspects of a religious God, even right up to sort of the big shift. There was still this idea of God as some sort of male or some entity or something like that. But that's okay, because we're really just working to let go. So what I came to see was God is just this experience of infinite love. It's not a beingness. It's all there is. All there is love, which is God is. And those are just words probably to you, but when you get to that experience, it's the only words that you can use, and yet it feels like words, but what else can you say? There are no words to it. So trust, Tina. Keep doing your forgiveness. It's literally like you're going through the eye of a needle. You can't bring anything with you. You can't value your life. That sounds really weird, but you can't even have a value to stay alive in this so-called world. You have to give up everything and let go in your mind. You don't have to give it up in form, but in content, in your mind. You have to let go of everything, but that's a very slow. Some people say I did it really fast, but it didn't feel like it was fast. But it may have been in time to. I just wanted peace, so I was like very, very dedicated to it, and so just keep going. If your dedication is weak, don't worry, you'll get it back.
Thank you, Cate. Blessings.
There's nothing to be scared about awakening to God's love. Nothing to be fearful about. Nothing to be scared about. All you lose is your fear. These thoughts. It's like the radio gets turned off. So the ego's like the radio station we're listening to all day long. It's just like somebody comes along and just presses the button and it's quiet. And that's it. That's what it really felt like to me. It felt like someone just turned off music or a voice or something that was always playing. And I went, oh, it's just so quiet. It's tangibly quiet. That's why even in the Course he says the contrast, there'll be a big difference. And then you just feel this love, and I call it the big soup of love. And the individual self, it's not there, but there's something that replaces it. And it's actually where your mind's joined with the Holy Spirit's mind in terms of, it's really hard to explain, because when I was doing forgiveness, I felt like I had the ego and I was asking for correction. But then when the ego dropped away, it just felt like I was quiet and present and in this beautiful, peaceful mind. Nothing came in to disturb it. There was no ego thoughts coming in, right? It just stopped. And I'm like, what do I do now? I've been practicing forgiveness so much. And then there was just this peace and quiet all the time in my mind, and it's not changed since then. And then there was just this guidance that would just come in and say, okay, do this and go here. And so you're joining this will, and it's just beautiful. So this inner guide, so you could say there's like emptiness of Cate. Well, so Cate's, the way I see Cate, it's not an individual. I don't feel like an individual person. I feel I'm one. There's just a oneness. It's hard to explain, but don't concern yourself with it. I would just say, just do whatever you can to practice forgiveness. Just be really vigilant to do forgiveness. Ask for help. Apply the daily lesson. Come to know. Be really. It's mainly that willingness to rise above when the ego gets very vicious. So when the ego comes into your mind, Tina, and says that you're going to disappear or something and you won't be able to operate, or you need to rise above that and say, I want the peace of God above this whatever this is coming in. And that's it. It's the same forgiveness. And I never sugarcoated it. It's not easy. He does say that you're going to have some sort of terror at some stage of losing this seemingly sort of identity. So it's good to remember that, because that's the time where you really need to get quiet and call in your guide to help you. The same forgiveness, but it probably feels a little bit more like a really calling out. At times I would get down on my knees beside my bed and I'd be crying, and I would just cry into the bed, the Holy Spirit, help me, help me, help me, help me. I'd be crying. I felt so much fear. And would just wait. So many people have shared that's something they've had as well, where they've just cried out. Okay, so Kathy Jones, would you like to ask?
Yeah, I just wanted to see if you would talk a little bit about trust and why trust is so important.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
So the development of trust, we start off, we give a little bit of trust to the Holy Spirit. We're so petrified of, what the Holy Spirit might do, how it, the Holy Spirit might not, might make me leave my job, and then what? So that I'm just going to share from where I was at. So that's the ego, right? Everything I say I felt or I thought, it was the ego. I was in the ego. I was believing the ego. So when I talk about it, I'm talking about it in plain language, but always remember that the decision maker was choosing the ego. That's all that was going on. So developing trust, I think for me it was not easy, but I knew that to undo the ego, I had to develop a deep trust and let go. So basically, I just thought, if Jesus has got it written in his course, I'm going to do it. I'm going to apply myself. I'm going to do the best job I can to do it. So I started off, I think I've shared this, that I really was, first of all, writing down questions and getting answers. And then I wanted to give some further things of my life over to the Holy Spirit. And I had to develop a trust, and because I felt at that time, without knowing that I was listening to the egoic mind, I felt that I was running my life. I was working, I was bringing money in, I was worried about, there's no way I thought I'd give over that part of my life, because I couldn't trust at that stage. So I just, one night I just started, I put music on and I started to dance and move my body. And I thought, I'll trust the Holy Spirit to move my body, because I was so wound up with controlling my life. I had to find something that I could trust. So I just still remember this feeling of just watching my body move and saying, oh, I don't feel I'm actually moving my body. I feel it's moving for me and nothing bad's happening. So I know it sounds silly, but that's to develop this trust. And then it was just a gradual thing over time, using time. I then came to, really have to trust him with money. And that was the big one for me. And we're really, and that brought around these beautiful miracles of trust, that I could trust. So my journey with the Holy Spirit and Jesus was to just trust here and there. So I had to trust my daughters. I had to let go of wanting my daughter to live. I had to trust. I mean, we don't have control anyway, really. Well, that's what I was shown, that me thinking that I could control having my job and being employed and where money was going to, it was like he showed me the business could close tomorrow and you could be out of work. Even what you feel is control, you think you're controlling something. You have no control. This was all integrated in my forgiveness. So the trust and the forgiveness sort of went together. So as I was getting guided to do certain blessings and see the person differently and say I love you and bless everyone in my mind as I was going about my day, and washing the feet of the so-called bully, coming to see that was me. It was my feet I was washing. There was no other. It was healing my mind. As I came to see that, I just started to develop this inner trust, and as we develop it, it starts to be more of a habit that we have each day. Was there anything specific that you wanted to ask about trust, Kathy, or was it just sort of a generalised how I developed it?
Just sort of a generalized, and how trust is just why it's so important to have trust. Yeah, there was nothing specific. Thanks.
Okay, so it's important to remember that we don't have our own thoughts. We don't have, there's no sort of like Cate's mind or Cate's thoughts. There's no Kathy's thoughts or Kathy's mind, right? There's, so if we really have to come to accept that we only have two sets of thoughts, the ego or the Holy Spirit. And he says the Holy Spirit, the ego speaks first. So when we wake up in the morning and we get a judgment thought like, I don't want to go to work today, I'm tired, the job's boring or it's too busy or something, that's the ego. But we think they're our thoughts. So trust is coming to trust that other voice to lead you. So trusting that it's going to give you, sometimes it gives you things to do. It'll give you a blessing to do, or it'll give you even, to come onto this group today, you would have had to have had a prompt or a thought to turn up. If you tried to come onto a group and it didn't work, it's not meant to be. Everything is for our good. It could be that you maybe needed to, you need to not come onto a group, you need to be quiet and develop a deeper trust, or someone rings you and you're meant to be available for them. So it's really seeing that we can't know what's going to really happen in what we call future. But if we trust right now, so trust will settle every problem now, because if I trust, so I let go of worrying about money, food, housing, anything, the little things the body needs, and trust that I will have, that the correction will come in, that I'll be given something helpful, and that he will lead me, he will guide me. And it's just something that you need to be mindful of. It takes work and vigilance. It takes willingness to follow and trust. And, in the development of trust, he does say that sometimes you can be sort of stuck in developing further trust for a long period of time. And I seem to go through that. I feel that I went through that very quickly. Some people get to a long period of boredom, of the world's meaningless, and they stay there and they just don't progress. So I would just encourage everyone, to move on. You're going to have fear about trusting. There's no two ways about it. The ego is going to say, if you trust, if you do this, watch out, and so you have to trust first to see that trusting works, which then develops trust. You can't get the development of trust until you trust first. So just remember that whenever something, even if you're offered a job, just sit quietly and ask, do I take this? If someone calls you or someone messages you, I'd like to talk to you or visit you or something, just sit quietly and ask. Just develop ability to constantly be asking. And then after a while, you won't be asking is already there. And the answer is just coming forward in every moment. Say this, do this, go here. And that trust is then developed. But we need to develop that trust. And that trust is like I had to let go of everything, of where I lived. I was guided to give, I'd saved up $4,000. It was the first time, this was sort of earlier on in those first 2 years, I'd saved up $4,000 and it was the first time I'd ever really had some money in the bank. And I was guided to give it to someone on Facebook that I hardly knew that asked for money for something. And the Spirit said, give him everything, give it all over. And I gave the $4,000 away just because I was guided to. And it was developing a trust that I needed to completely let go of trying to figure out or hoarding up treasures. I needed to let that money go so I could see how he was going to bring in these things for me. So I got to the stage where I really had nothing. I had no money. And this is sort of, it's not to scare everybody, but that's what happened, is that I was guided not to ask anyone for help, not for me to try to go and fix it and say, hey, could you lend me some money I don't have a job and I don't have any money. Now in Australia, we have the government, we all get a pension when we're out of work, right? Everybody, if you're out of work, you get money from the government. There's no one ever is ever going to be without any money. We have a socialist system, right? So, and I could have applied for that. I was guided not to go anywhere, ask for anything, because I had to be open to receive and let go of me trying to control me trying to figure out how to make something happen. And that's when we trust. We have to develop that when we feel that, I really feel like I need to do something. And it's like, no, let go and trust and wait and see what happens. So that's where we have to be. We can't see what's going to come in the next moment, the next 24 hours, what's going to be given us. So what happens is the Holy Spirit comes into other minds and says, go and give this to Cate. And I can't see that. And then they, some people, sometimes I've had where I don't know how I'm going to pay something for the week, and someone has donated some money. And I'm like, wake up in the morning and I'm like, there's $100 there. And I'm like, I couldn't have seen that come in. So, that's how I trust. And what happens is, along with that trust, and the reason why I'm talking about money so much is that was my biggest forgiveness lesson, you might say. It might be something else for you, because I have met course students that have no issues. They never concern themselves with money. They feel, you know, but for me, it was my whole seeming like egoic life was, I gotta get some money. I gotta get a job. I gotta study to get, you know, and to let go of it all was a big ask. Now, I remember Gary Renard saying that when he travelled around, people were talking a lot about financial situations with him. He said that seemed to be the biggest concern. So, so that for me was the big letting go and not holding on to where I would live, how I would get anything bought in, to completely free our minds of just say, I'm happy wherever you have me, to have no attachment to owning anything, to staying anywhere, being in any country or any house or wherever. And he showed me when I was guided to sell the property I lived in, and then he said to live on the money. I got right. And the day that money was used up, we bought this house. So I saw the timing of it all. It was exactly the right money to take me through. And it's just that you will be cared for. You will. There's an inner guide that knows you, loves you, will guide you, will never depart you. You have to play your part. And it's just been amazing to live with that trust. But I would like you to know that I didn't have that trust. I was what I call like the spiritual dummy. I had no real, you know, only that I felt as a young child when I went to church, this love for Jesus. I just felt this beautiful love. I felt connected to him. Just this beautiful, like, I'm like, oh, wow, wouldn't it be lovely to be around someone like him? So loving, so open. And I wanted to come to know him. And coming to know him through my journey is where he came to heal me of my belief in my sin. And once that was undone, you know, I started to feel something, you know, the holiness of myself replaced that. And that's beautiful. So we're all here to do this same thing, to demonstrate it. So if you have guilt and you feel guilty about something, just let it go, give it over. He's really asking for miracle workers, people to demonstrate his peace. He says, there was a quote I read during the week, something, and it is in the course about show everyone that I didn't die in vain by showing that I live in you. That's where we want to be. We want to be our Christ self, blessing and loving. And that, you know, that beautiful, what would Jesus do? You know, I have that same Christ mind. We're not putting Jesus on a pedestal. He's our older brother. He's healing us. He's the leader. He's our teacher. But he also wants us to finish the class. Him as a teacher walk out of the room and us stand up in front of the classroom and say, I'm here to demonstrate the same mind as he has. He wants us to do that. Thank you. Joy Liel, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, I'm thinking about the teachings several weeks ago about sickness and about, I know the Course teaches we are completely responsible for choosing any sickness. What I'm wondering about is when, for example, newborn babies are born with a congenital sickness or a chronic illness or things like that, it seems to be pointing that some decisions are made even before we're in the body. And so I'm wondering what part of that, what part of us is that makes that decision even before we're in form? And is it possible that there are illnesses later in life that people have that are somehow a contract that was made before we came into the body for some reason, and how to be responsible for that, and how to undo, I know you were talking about, once you become clear that you're responsible for the decision, then sometimes that undoes the getting sick. But it's like, if it was made before you even came into the body, how does that work?
Okay, so I'd just like to clarify some of the things you said there. Yes, it is true that anyone that comes here, even a little baby that is stillborn or dies a few days old or dies at 1 year, it's all scripted. There is a decision. It's made. You've got to remember that it's the mind that made it. The mind that chose the tiny mad idea is, it's like it's in a dream. It's like in a bubble, or it's like the mind is caught in a dream, and the mind has fragmented. So each part is coming into the dream world as a body, seemingly a body, and it has its whole script. It's the script of separation. Every fragmented part of the mind, it's fragmented, and it feels itself to be separate as it's born into a body. And it's the whole, every single lifetime in the dream is scripted, and even your awakening is scripted. It's like the whole thing is already been and done. It's already over. It's like watching a movie that's the actors and they've said their lines, and the lines, the baby that came in, that was its script, and the mind chose death. We can't understand it because we're trying to understand it from a mind that can't understand, because we have got no awareness of this mind that seemingly chose the separation from God. But I can see it all in my mind. I can see everything. It's all, when you awaken, it all opens up to you. This is a mind that's outside time and space that you enter into, and you'll be able to see everything, how it's all over, how every lifetime is chosen, how everyone can't help but choose what they're choosing. I'll sort of give you the big overall picture, which might be hard to understand, but I'll give it to you as much as I can. And then I'll go into the detail that you've asked. So in this bubble of the dream, where we feel ourselves to be individual people in a world, over and over, the egoic mind is is brought into a body and feels it's a body, and then has its script as an ego in the body, and then the egoic mind chooses death in some way, chooses sickness, dies, comes back again, can even come back at different, what we call time. It can move forward, backwards. It's not a body, it's a mind that's choosing this, right? So the mind that thought that it had chosen separation and felt guilty and pushed itself into a world of separation and trying to hide out is living in this sort of dream world, this illusory place. And the only way to come back to see that this is an illusion and that we chose it is to really come to work with the Holy Spirit and Jesus, and you will eventually get to see it. Our job, where we find ourselves completely unaware that we were in this mind that had this thought of separation, and here we find ourselves, we are so cut off and so unaware of all the other things in our mind. So our job is just to, what we call forgiveness, is to forgive what we think is outside of us. Our guide will come to heal our mind of the belief in separation, will come back to know itself as God created it. And we'll see that there is no body and there is no death. There is nothing here in this dream world that has ever happened. And that's what is revealed to you as you move up the ladder. As you practice forgiveness, you'll see this. So where we find ourselves in choosing sickness, it's part of going back up the ladder. We just have to say to ourselves, there's so much I don't know. There's so much of my mind that I'm not aware of that is opening up to me. So we're going inwards into the mind. We're letting go of the value of the body, because the body is what the mind has used to deny the mind, the power of the mind. So we need this guide. So this Holy Spirit part of our mind is like, the answer is in the Holy Spirit, is in our mind and is answering. But that's also the illusion, because there's never been a time where we left our home. But it feels like we did. But when you get back to a healed mind, you see that there could never be a world, there could never be death or sickness or a baby dying. But while we're in it and we see a baby die, we feel these feelings and we think this is unfair. But the answer is always the same answer. There's no hierarchy of illusions. The death of a baby is the same as the death of an ant, or the scrunching up of a leaf, pulling a leaf off a tree. There's nothing here that can die. We cannot make a compromise on the idea of death. Nothing can die, because God is life. So the teachings about the choice for sickness, he's really telling us that our mind is scared. It doesn't know its way home. And we're choosing we're making a faulty choice. And he's asking us to come back to the magnificence of our true self, just to let go of this identity as a body and to move into this beautiful holy mind. And the script is the script of all our lives is already written. It's already done. Every lifetime you've ever had or will have, seemingly, in the future, because there is no future, there's only now. So the script is written now. So everything you're choosing right now is, the ego puts a thought in your mind, that's part of the script. If you can break it down to the script is the thoughts that you're listening to in this moment. Which script am I in? That way you can really bring it into a way that is very practical, in that if I'm choosing a thought that says, if I'm life's too hard, life's too tough, I need to rest, the sickness will come in. It will seem to be in the body. We'll look at the body and say, yes, the body chose it, I just got sick. But as I said in those teachings, that we have to become aware, first of all, of our thought, that we chose it, and to not feel guilty, but just to say, I just wanted a break. I wanted a little break from what I thought was too much or too hard, and I thought sickness would bring it, but it doesn't bring it. There's no gain in being sick. The only gain is coming to the light. The only gain is to come into God's arms. His arms are open. Is to walk to the light and just say, yes, I want to be with you. I'm letting go of this identity as a body that needs to protect itself and find its safety. I want to come back to the mind. I want to be in the mind of God. It's beautiful love and joy and peace and happiness. And so there's sort of given many levels of teaching here, that mind coming into the mind that made that choice. I saw how the mind chose the tiny mad idea. I also saw that we never chose it. I also saw that everything's happening at once. There's no time. This dream, I saw that this whole dream world was over. It never happened, and yet here I am, seemingly to be in it, to share. So it's like a paradoxical weight in the mind. And everybody that gets sick here and seemingly dies in the dream, the mind has chosen it, because the egoic mind is choosing it all the time. It's frightened of God. It's forgotten its true self. It's forgotten its oneness. And but eventually each mind will choose it. And there's scripts, there's billions and billions of scripts. There's you've got no idea, there's scripts everywhere, all over the place. It's not linear. But you can rest assured that you will awaken. You will awaken. You'll just, once you see there's nothing here for you, there's nothing in this so-called world, you'll come to let go of it and choose to be guided back to your true home and stay there and live there and be in this oneness, in the song of love, God's mind. It'll all open up to you. It's like heaven is within you. It all opens up. There's this, God is just this beautiful, infinite, eternal love. And you're experiencing it, but not as an individual self. There's no recognition of you as an individual, separate. You're just coming into this love, and it's like floating on the water of a pool or being a drop of water in the ocean. You're in it, you're part of it. You have the experience. The experience is in your mind. There's just not a nothingness or a void. If you've had a glimpse or something, it's as he says, it's like 1,000 times more beautiful than anything you can ever think of. And the ego's trying to get some love here in the dream of separation. It's just crazy. It's like having a big piece of paper, as big as a skyscraper, and you're just pulling off one tiny corner, as big as your thumbnail, and you're saying, I want this, and God's saying, come and have everything. Come and have everything. Come home and have everything. And you as an ego is just saying, oh, I'm just going to have this tiny little scrap that the ego is offering me, and searching for it and trying to find it in a dream. And we just have to wake up from this dream and see that it's just a dream, and come back to our Father, come back to, it's not even father or mother, it's just infinite love. It's just this beautiful, holy, infinite love that loves us and created us that way. And we remember that. We come to know ourselves as that. And that's, I'm in that now, and I don't want to leave. So I don't know whether that made sense, but that was the answer coming through. And it wasn't something coming through me. That was my answer. That's my mind answering. So I'm not channeling anything. These are things that I'm experiencing, but not me as Cate, as an ego. It's living in another mind that's bringing this answer in. I don't bring an answer in and then go back to an ego. Like some people, the channel will bring something through. I stay in this mind. And so can you. It is possible. There's nothing here. As I said, it's like ripping off that tiny, tiny little bit of scrap of paper and saying, oh, this world holds this, I'm just trying to hang on to this little bit here. And that's why you've got to die to yourself. You really have to let go and seemingly die to that ego. And you have to, it's going to feel like a death, but you will be carried across to the most beautiful love. That across that bridge is the most divine, gorgeous soup of love. So beautiful, so holy. You'll never want to be tempted by the ego's thought again. So let's check the time. Thank you, Joliel, for that question. Let's just do a 10-minute meditation now, just to finish off. I have got a meditation. It's going to work really beautifully in with today, what we've talked about. Thank you to everyone that asked questions and that withdrew some lovely answers. So this is our meditation. If you'd like to just get quiet and close your eyes, and this is based on lesson 108, to give and receive are one in truth. So today we will attempt to offer peace to everyone and see how quickly peace returns to us. As I give peace, I receive it. To give and receive are one in truth. I will receive what I am giving now. What I'm giving now, I will receive. As I give peace away, I receive it. I experience it. Close your eyes and think of what you would hold out to everyone to have it yours. To everyone, I offer quietness. To everyone, I offer peace of mind. To everyone, I offer gentleness. To start off, think of someone that you'd like to give this gift. Hold them in your mind. To you, I offer quietness. To you, I offer peace of mind. To you, I offer gentleness. Now think of everyone. Think of everyone in a big group. To everyone, I offer quietness. To everyone, I offer peace of mind. To everyone, I offer gentleness. So I'll just come out of that meditation. It's such a beautiful, those 3 lines. Work together with the cross blessing. I offer you peace. I offer you gentleness. I offer you quietness. I thank you, everyone. Appreciate coming to the group. So for the next 2 Sunday evenings and Monday mornings in Australia, so there won't be a group on. I'll put a notification up on the Zoom to Miracles, just as a reminder. Love and blessings to everyone. Have a beautiful couple of weeks, and I rest in God. Thank you. Like the sun's now shining brightly. Love you, everyone. Love and blessings.
Back at you, Pam.
Thank you.